Tell me, where are you right now?
It's it's quite interesting because it's absolutely dark everywhere, but this enormous, enormous light coming from the left-hand side. If you could imagine like a sun, but it's not the light like the sun, it's a different light, and it's just radiating out. And when I do this with my eyes, it becomes green and yellow haze. Like if you had to have a movie that shows Dracula or a baddie, and then you have sort of like a green gas,
Mm-hmm.
like a greeny yellow mustard gas
Mm-hmm.
coming out, that's sort of like that haze. That,
Tell us more about the gas. Is it breathable or not?
well, you can, if you are acclimatized to this particular planet, then it's not a problem. But as a human, you wouldn't be able to live in that environment. And I keep on seeing figures to my right-hand side.
Can these figures please come closer?
Yeah.
Do they have form?
Oh, Sherbet. One is standing there at SEKHMET next to me here. She's got a camel. Um, and the camel is facing me with a sort of braided rein thing across here. And it goes like that, the loop of um, what she's holding.
What does she want to share with us today? What's the reference of the camel?
Well, she said a camel can go for a very long time without water. And she said there are many people that are going without water at the moment. And she's taking me to the lands. Oh,
Hmm.
the land next to Egypt on the border. She said where so many people are suffering and the children are lining up and they're wanting water. They've got their little buckets, their little containers. And she said they're not camels, they're humans, and they can't live in the desert without water.
Is there anything that we can do to help these children and humans?
She's showing me a whole row of men in business suits, and they've got their brows heavy, and they like this, looking at the situation. And it's like there's a lot of chit chat going on in the background about this particular situation. And she's reminding me of what I was told a few years ago. And she said, it is a war. She said, but it is the war for the souls of humanity. And she said she'd like to talk a little bit about that,
Please
about
go
this.
ahead.
She said, the souls of humanity. She said, all the humans that are here have a soul or a soul. And how are their souls interacting and engaging with humanity for those souls that are on the ground in the desert that are without water? She said, what is your soul doing about it? Are you putting it at an arm's length and saying, well, it doesn't concern me? It's not in my backyard as such. Or are you making a concerted effort to change it? She said, this is a time for a soul's acceleration. And she said, just now you and I were talking about something called the quickening. And she said, the quickening is what happens as a very old-fashioned term used by midwives before a woman gives birth. There's a quickening. And she said, this is a birthing. This is a new time for all the souls of humanity to come together for a new birth, for a new era. But she says, how do you step into a new era if you have to step over others to get it? And she said, she's calling it a state. She's not calling it a country. She says, the state that has imposed the state of the lack of water in its neighboring state, what is it doing in its soul's evolution right there on the border? And she said, humanity is always talking about ascension and always looking into the future. She said, but here's one of the biggest opportunities for all of Earth's inhabitants to look after their own. And she said, you might not speak the same language. You might not look the same. Your skin tone might be slightly different on the outside. Your culture might be different, your traditions. She said, but when a bullet goes through their heart, as a bullet would go through your heart, they die just as you die. When you are thirsty and you don't have water, they are thirsty and they don't have water. And they are part of humanity and so are you. So how much humanity resides within? And when we first started, I told you that I was seeing a big pyramid. And then I saw a face on top of the pyramid, a man's face. And he started sliding down the side of the pyramid, slowly, just sliding. And she said to me, she wanted to show me that visual because it is the slide of humanity. She said, humanity is not supposed to fall down and slide away. It's supposed to be now uplifting and uplifted. But she said, what is each individual saying about the situation on the ground? Or are they just letting it play itself out? She said, what if each individual, she said, there are billions on earth. Imagine if all of them came together as one to support that one small space and saying, this is not what we choose. We don't choose this for ourselves. We do not choose this for another. She says, just remember, whatever you give out is what you get back. And the state that is giving this situation to its neighbor, what is it asking in return? Have they forgotten that for every action, there is a reaction? And she said, it's been like this, like this, like this, like this, push, 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 push. And she said, watch for the backlash. Watch for the backlash.
Thank you, Sekhmet. And I love what you're sharing, as I think a lot of us are kind of just shrugging our shoulders and saying, okay, when? Okay, when? When? And I most certainly, in my own personal capacity, have had real bugbears with the governments. And it's exactly that, bugbears. It's like, how much more do we have to bear? So I hear what you're saying, and I'm speaking for the people. When is this point of reference? When is this like the tipping, like the point? You're showing us the pyramid, you showed Jill the pyramid. But when is this tipping point going to actually happen?
When the people find their voices.
And how? How is it going to look?
And how much can somebody hold? Michelle, recently you have gone through a holding pattern, and we say many humans go through holding patterns. Many humans have family situations that they hold on to for days, for weeks, and then months, and then years. And they hold and they hold and they hold. And why do they not use their voice to release it? But they hold. But it comes to what we term a tipping point, where the holding becomes too much for the human system. Knees start to hurt, hips start to hurt, headaches, shoulders, aches and pains, and then a deeper layer of what you call dis-ease, disease sets in. So how much disease and how many aches and pains does humanity have to carry before they reach their tipping point? And we say, have you not noticed a feeling in the air? So many humans pre-COVID said they could feel something building and growing and building and growing, but they didn't know what it was. But they could feel that something was about to happen. And now when you speak to humans again, and friends, and family, and colleagues, there is what we would term an unsettlement. They are not settled. They are waiting. They look to Europe. They look to the situation there. They look to the situation in the Congo. They look to the situation in the Egyptian era, in that whole arena. They look to Syria. There is much that is going on in your earth plane at this time. And it is happening because of the quickening. It is now bringing in more and more and more players. So the tempo is building. The pot is boiling more and more. And then the pot boils over. There will be one strong incident that is going to set it all off. It is not too distant. And this will be what many term horrific, but it is the release valve for years and years of discontent to come out, for people to say what has been in their hearts, for humanity has been living under a yoke in a prison system, although they might not know it. They've been imprisoned for many, many centuries. And now it is time for freedom. But the freedom always comes at a cost. Liberation costs. So the people know this, they feel it deep inside. And that is why they have taken their time to reach that tipping point, because they are having to grow the strength inside themselves, because they know deep in their bones what lies ahead. these years that you have been going through, the last 5, have been discombobulating for many. However, they have been the quiet years. They are like the entree to a main course. So we say, go outside, smell the flowers, swim in the sea, eat those delicious meals, watch the sunsets, hold your families close. For these quiet years are soon going to be, how shall we say this? Turbulent.
Thank you for this and the information coming through. I think that's the only kind of feeling that I have right now. Having said that, though, is this when you're talking about the 12,500 year cycle? Because just before Jill and I connected on Zoom, there was something shared with me that possibly it was a video that possibly the pyramids were built around 12,800 years ago. In this previous cycle, there was a comet, pole shift, seas rising. Is this what the quickening is about?
The quickening is about change. And as just before you spoke and asked that question, I showed her like a mountain, and in front of it, a sea of lava, of hot flowing lava. And when there's eruptions, there are earth changes. There's much ahead that needs to be changed. For, as we told this one, Gaia came to change, to be the change maker for many, and to hold many as they changed. And they came for her, and she came for them. And this is a huge, huge growth period, not only for her and her energies, but for all who inhabit. And some will leave sooner than others, for they will have come to hold the frequencies, to hold the vibrations until they don't need to hold anymore. And as they depart, with their vibration no longer in that area will change. It's like we're showing this one a musical sheet, and you have all the notes and you have a tune playing, but you get a new composer in, and the composer adds new pieces of music to that tune. The tune is going to change. All of you are musical notes. All of you are part of the grand orchestra. So when the pieces depart out of the tune, who is going to hold that area? What are they going to be bringing in? All the new souls that are coming in have a new signature tune. Their energy is so strong. They see in a different way. They relate in a different way. They are opening up the adults in a way that the adults have never been opened before. They do not allow secrets to be held anymore. They don't want the adults to be holding. They don't want the dis-ease to be held in their parents, their uncles and their aunties, and their grannies and their granddads. So they have come as a new tune, And as they come in and the old leave, the vibrations are going to be higher. Therefore, structures will fall over, will tumble, because they have been held together in the old tune, in the old vibration. And therefore, there is no other way for the new that is coming in, is building a completely different structure. Does that answer your question?
It does, but what's so fascinating as you're talking about this new structure and these beautiful children coming, I'm yawning my head off. Like, it just feels like the old has to release and there's no other way. And the question that comes to mind is what you've been speaking about. Is this the 3 days of darkness that has been spoken of? I've been asked this myself, but it just feels like everything is going through an upgrade right now, and nothing feels, it's like everything that we once knew is dynamically shifting. So is this what the 3 days of darkness is about? Or are we in the darkness already?
Well, we are smiling because some people live their entire life in the darkness
Mm-hmm.
and others live in the light. So, what are 3 days of darkness? 3 days of darkness is a changeover.
Got you. And 3 days could be anything, isn't it? I mean,
It's
yeah.
a one system shutting down as the other system integrates.
Mm,
So it's like a bridge and it's crossing over from the old, or rather from the new to the old, and the old is falling away and a
mm,
new bridge is being formed.
mm. So all the leaders that are in place right now, all the leaders that are playing their parts, all the leaders that are doing whatever they're doing, and I'm not going to mention them because there's far too many to mention. They're playing their parts in order for us to find our voices.
Well, the wonderful thing is that many are not leaders. And that's why there are so many changeovers, because the people are finding their voices. And have you not seen how many leaders are starting to step aside?
Mm,
How many are being exposed?
mm,
And yet it is the citizens of many countries that have been too lazy to put a proper system in place. So they have just accepted what has been presented to them and got on with their lives. But it is time for self-governance, governance of self, and yet so many souls don't even govern themselves. And yet they expect a leader to stand up and suddenly govern everyone and take care of all the situations. One has to ask oneself, why would you hand over your power to somebody else and say, you make the decisions, and then complain about the decisions that are then being made? We told this one in 2020. There will be a landslide victory to the people. We told her that the sleeping giant is awakening, and the sleeping giant is humanity. And humanity will be victorious. We are now at the tipping point for change, and that is why there is so much uneasiness. But we, and when I speak about we, well, I'm speaking about the collective. All the guides for all the people are shining as brightly as they can at this time, and dropping in photons to help those who came to step into the next frontier. Let's call it a frontier, because we are showing her how armies years ago would send all the foot soldiers, and then you'd have the artillery and you'd have all the horses behind them,
Mm-hmm.
and all the foot soldiers would go in first, and then they would, a lot of them, be decimated, and then the next wave would come through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the first wave that came to do what they came to do is going through, and then the next wave will come through. So it's waves of humanity that have been coming over this earth for years and years and years. And they have left their vibrations on and in this earth plane. And it's like everything is being pulled together, mixed in like a big soup. And all the good stuff is now going to start coming to the surface. And all, I think that you call it, like, we're not quite sure the terminology of the stuff that comes to the top that needs to be the scum. We're
Mm-hmm.
hearing the word scum that comes right at the top. And then you just get a spoon and you just flick it away, don't you? You just
Mm-hmm.
flick it away.
Mm-hmm.
We are now saying that scum, many are going to see what that scum is, what has been simmering in this big pot of humanity, what has been trying to look after and sour the whole mixture. That scum, as you know, is just a tiny little bit on the top of this enormous pot. Now we're saying the scum is going, and the goodness and the wholesomeness of the pot is for the very first time going to be given as this most luscious meal to humanity, where the goodness can override what you would term the bad. We call it duality, but you call it the bad. They came to play their parts perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
so that this earth can move and go where it needs to go. Yes, there will be pole shifts. Yes, there will be loss of life. Yes, there will be new lands arriving. Yes, there will be old lands that will be disappearing. However, you all came to do this particular job. You all came on a mission. How do you feel about your mission, Michelle?
Sometimes I'm like, it feels like a roller coaster ride sometimes. And then other times, most time, like, you see, this is how I feel, like humanity contradicting ourselves. Like, okay, but what are we saying? Becoming more attuned into, and I know you guys are probably smiling at me out there, like, yep, become consciously aware of your words and your thoughts. Having said that, it feels really disruptive and chaotic being on Earth at the moment. So I'm not answering your question 100%, but it most certainly just feels there. Like, come on, let's get with the program. Come on. Having, I could, like you see, I'm in the roller coaster, like, does that answer your question?
Well, that is why you came, did you not? Not only for your mission, but to dip your toe
Mm.
into the sea of humanity and give it a go and see how you fare this time around. And yet so many of you take yourselves so seriously because you keep on forgetting who or what you are, and you get embroiled in the human drama of
Mm-hmm.
every day. And we say it's time, literally, to lighten up.
And I love what you're sharing. And this is where I think people in my age group and everybody that is, I say everybody, but collectively, and many of us are questioning so much around the governments. So I know it is about staying in joy, but I was saying to my husband the other day, who decided we needed passports? Like when? When was it decided that we needed passports to be able to go from one country to the next? And my question is, are the financial aspects of living in this 3D world, is the financial way of life, is the energy shifting around that? Because it just feels like there's so much greed on this in this world that we live on.
Just shown her the Milky Way and all the stars in that system and the beautiful night sky. And if you lie on the grass at night and you look into that vastness, do you need a passport to look at any of the stars?
No.
And do you need a passport to connect with those that you connect with as a spiritual medium?
No.
You don't. So passports have been put in as a man-made structure for control. So we always come back to the control of the human system. And we say you should be celebrating the disruption, because as you see the dismantling and the unsettlement in so many countries, then you know you are closer and closer to the liberation. And how you can help it and help yourself is to see what's going on, but don't hold it in your system. Encapsulate yourself in an egg-like structure of protection so that you can still see out, but it's like you have this beautiful glass dome or plasma dome, and from that driving seat inside this dome, you concentrate as one or two together, three together, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 40, 50, 100, no matter how many people you want to include in your egg structures all around you. And you link your hearts to all those structures, and you bring in the electromagnetism from the hearts into the middle, into the most beautiful funnel, and you allow it to go deep into Mother Earth and right out through into the stratosphere, and then you let it surround it with love, with peace, with joy, with tranquility, with abundance, unity, unity, unity. We see enough of division. And because you are such incredibly powerful magnets, as you start this movement, and note that we said an egg, because when you think of an egg, you think of an embryo, and you think of an embryo, you think of new life.
Mm.
And you are all capable of sending out right across your earth structure this visualization of new life, new growth, and light, and joy, and healing, and abundance. And you can start a whole movement, and you can start it over Zooms. You can just say every Sunday at a certain time, you will think of that area that's without water, and you will send sustenance that way. And then you can think of another area and another area. You can think of the people in your lives that need any of those, from tranquility to peace, to clarity, to abundance, to unity, to joy, to be part of something. For so many feel alienated and alone. There is a great aloneness on your earth plane, a, a vast area that feels separated and don't even know who they are anymore. So if you start this, you can start it just within 10, 20, 30 people. And those people can get their 10, 20, 30 people, and so on, until you've got all these little pods all working together with good intentions for the whole of humanity. That is what makes a difference, because the energy of who you are radiates beyond passport control, beyond any man-made border. It's very, very powerful what you can do when one or more stand together with a common goal.
I love that. And are we going through massive DNA upgrades right now through this whole quickening and shift? You know, a lot of us keep talking about ascension symptoms, and sometimes I'm like, okay, is sometimes we're not sleeping. Jill and I talk about this. Did you sleep last night? No, I didn't. I'm not waking up exhausted, neither is she. But are our strands of DNA in us, in the age group that we are, upgrading as much as these new children coming in, these new souls coming in? So
They
first
have
of all, the
more
upgrades.
strands. They have more strands than you have.
How come?
And your scientists might not even be able to discern that they are as such.
Mm-hmm.
However, they need to have that strong bridge within to be able to bridge the gap that has been created, so that they will be able to smoothly go through anything that's coming their way. And your systems, we would like to say, like building a new house, for example, you need to have the scaffolding if you're going to put on a new floor. And if you've got a single story and you decide to go double story, you need to have the scaffolding, you need to have the braces to be able to put in them to hold the structure together,
Mm-hmm.
be able to see higher and further. Otherwise, you will always just see from the bottom floor. And many of you are now getting the bracing that is being put in, and the new trusses and the new ceilings to hold everything together, to help you to see further. But you won't have the same structure as those new ones that are coming in, because they have a different job to do. So if you are a submarine and you're built as a submarine, you're not meant to fly through the sky. And if you're a plane, you will be flying through the sky. You will not be doing the work of a submarine. And that is the best way we can describe it, is that you were the aeroplanes and you were flying around, and the new ones are the submarines. However, the new ones have been fitted with a system that they can be a submarine and a jet plane. Do you see the difference?
Mm-hmm. Got you. Thank you for that explanation. Would it be okay if I talk a little bit about Egypt, please?
Certainly.
So how is it also based on the systems when we all go to Egypt? I felt a lot of my energy shifting in the pyramid and at certain temples. Jill also felt a lot of energy shifting, yet for those of us that were in the group in 2023, people got home and got sick, you know, had attachments. What happens energetically? Like I'm claustrophobic, and I know we're heading back to Egypt in August. So what happens? Is it a mind thing or is it an energy thing that affects us all differently?
Well, you've already told yourself that you're claustrophobic. You stated it. What,
There's no windows in the pyramids, guys.
what else do you state that you then tell your body to follow?
So is it the mind telling the body or the body feeling what the mind is thinking?
Michelle, have you not heard a human term mind over matter?
Yes,
Do you know what that means?
I'm still learning.
Well, what is an earth master?
Somebody who floats. Just as like,
We smile patiently.
I can imagine your faces right now. There she goes again. Okay, so you've helped me to discern that for myself. But how is it that even when Jilly went to Peru, she came back and she got really, really sick? What happens in our systems? Because I know there's beliefs around this and that, and you've just stated, so I'm pretty good at times in picking up certain things, but you've just helped me to understand my statement of being claustrophobic.
Could you not state, I used to be claustrophobic?
Got you. Thank you. That helps.
How does that sound when you say, I am claustrophobic?
It's happening right now.
I used to be claustrophobic. What are you giving yourself permission to do?
To become claustrophobic.
So that's why we say, what is it that you choose with the I am?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is what you are telling your system. But are you not in charge of your system? Why would you allow your system to be in charge of you?
I hear you. Yet, how is it that the systems, because for me, we're all, you mentioned Earth Masters, and yes, we're, I think, navigating and learning to master Earth, because Earth definitely has its own mastery. Yet, how is it that some people went back and were exhausted for days? Some people got sick. Is it the system that goes through an upgrade, their system? Is it the energy that needed to be shifted with the releases that certain people had? How does that work energetically?
So each system is unique. Each system has its own signature, and you recognize each other by your energy signature, which we term your essence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a specific formula. It is a mathematical equation. So if you know your formula and you stand strong in your formula without anything from an outside element or force or structure or being that comes towards you with different ideas, and yet you still stand firm, then nothing affects your essence, your structure, your signature. So if that structure or your essence goes to Peru, Timbuktu, Egypt, New York, London, New Zealand, it'll stay the same. When you have words like, I am claustrophobic, and then you get put in a situation like Egypt, then your essence is not strong, it's not structured, and you have now given that area permission to sway and play with your formula.
Mm.
And therefore, it literally climbs on board. It climbs on board your vehicle. So when you take it home, back to whichever country it is that you are living in, you now have got a hitchhiker.
Mm.
Now, some people love to have a hitchhiker. They say, come on board. They actually slow the car down and say, come, where are you going? Let me give you a lift. But most hitchhikers, when they get to their destination, they leave and they carry on. But you now invite the hitchhiker and you are not allowing it to carry on and carry on its journey because you weren't firm, you didn't set your boundaries, you didn't say, this is who I am, and you haven't mastered your earthly form. And as a result, many that came back were carrying literally something energetic with them, which either made them sick or tired. Have you heard humans saying, oh, I'm just so sick and tired of this?
Mm-hmm.
So when you realize that you are feeling sick or tired, retrace your steps, see what it is that you opened yourself up to, into, invited in when you were not in your full essence, but it opened the door by the words that you use, the thoughts that you hold in your head. So it is a learning curve. Some people open up too much. They hold a lot of doubt about themselves. And so the others are attracted to them. And so they get carried along until they think, I don't wish for this to be anymore. I don't want to be this way. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be tired. And then they remember who they are. And they say, okay, it's time to vacate. No squatters allowed anymore. These are my boundaries. This is what I'll accept because I am. And when you say I am, it's like you've got this huge rod in the ground and it sends out such strong vibrations that it pushes everything. And we're showing this one, if somebody has a rat infestation, there's a little device that you can buy and you can plug it in and it sends out a beacon, a silent noise that you humans can't hear, but like a radiation, it
Mm-hmm.
goes out. And so it repels and it stays away. And this is what we want for humanity, to remember who or what you are.
Mm.
You are multi-dimensional, more than one dimension, multi, having a short experience as a human in this human overcoat, this human meat suit.
Mm.
The stronger you become in your memory of who you are, the less drama you're going to have in your life,
Mm.
the less illness. You will have peace, tranquility, and more unification. And please, do not be hard on yourselves, because this is the most beautiful learning school, the planet Earth. All of you come to the point of self-realization, the realization of the self, that there is multi, not just one. And you are multifaceted, all of you, beautifully faceted. Sometimes you turn this way and you might be reflecting a mudslide, and that is the light that you are holding, and it's dark and it's yucky and it's gloomy. But what is amazing is that you have the ability to slightly turn, and now you've got a different view and a different angle, and look at that beautiful blue pond and the
Mm.
sky and the green grass. And yet so many of you decide to look at the mud pool and the mudslide and then
Mhm.
complain about it and complain about it. And suddenly you give a little tweak and you go, oh my gosh, there's the sunlight, there's the sunlight. So we say to you, why do you choose the mudslide when there are so many other facets to look at? And it's because you are discovering yourself. You're discovering your facets. So
Mm.
when you've had enough of the mud and it's literally getting you down and you go, I've had enough of this, please to remember, just turn, 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 turn.
Thank you for that. And I wanted to ask, with the turning, is it true that we come in with soul contracts?
So we think about it and we say, is it a contract? What is a contract? Is it an agreement between parties?
Mm-hmm. It can be, and this is where, again, it is this a belief that's been set up by so many earth masters, people that we've been looking up towards, because a contract, I know, can be rewritten, but it's just, do we come in with these contracts, with these beautiful big souls that have a knowing of all sorts?
We come in, many of us, as did I, as a SEKHMET. I decided I wanted to enlarge my soul's capacity. So I had a meeting with my advisors and I said, I want to be peace, but I want to be the warrior at the same time, because I didn't want people and situations to stand, and other gods and deities to stand in my way of my expansion and my experience. Therefore, I needed to be strong. So if you want to call that a contract, it wasn't so much a contract as a longing, a yearning inside my soul. So it was a discussion that was held with those around me, saying, we suggest that if you wish to experience that, this might be the pathway for you. And if it is no longer your path, then you choose a different path. It is quite simple.
Mm.
You meet the players in your life on the earth plane to be part of your story for maybe one chapter, maybe two chapters, maybe an entire book. But if that book has drama in chapter 1, drama in chapter 2, drama in chapter 3, and so it goes on, that you're carrying the drama, the drama, the drama, the drama, the drama. When are you going to make space for the chapters in your book, for the fun, for the joy, for the peace, for the unity, for all those things that we've already mentioned? Then we say it's not a contract. It is nothing but an experience and an expansion for your soul, for your soul's journey. So if you are having drama after drama after drama, you might say, hey, thank you, A, thank you, B, thank you, C, for being in my life and showing me all this drama. Wow, that was a lot that I learned from that and that. But you know what? I don't choose that anymore. Now I'm choosing this. Thank you so much for the part that you played. You no longer need to play with me. Now, this is what I choose. And those conversations, the telepathy, the telepathic communication of each chapter was discussed with the players in your human field before you came onto this earth plane. And there will be hard feelings amongst some, there will be no hard feelings amongst others. And yet, when you are reunited in the next dimension, in the waiting room for your next incarnation, you will look down and watch yourselves like little miniatures in a play, and you will laugh and go, oh my gosh, look at me. I was in that drama part for chapter after chapter after chapter. How long did it take me to remember that I wanted one chapter of joy and the other being the sparkling, beautiful being of light that's next to you says, I played my part so well, didn't I? I really threw everything at you. And you were such a slow learner. Remember, you said you wanted to find joy this time. And I threw drama and drama and drama. But, you know, we always say, when you look at flowers in a garden and you plant them at the same time, they don't all come out and blossom at the same time. They always blossom in the time that they take to blossom. And because you wouldn't say to a flower, oi, why aren't you blossoming? I can't see all your color. You're still a little bud. Why aren't you opening yourself to the sunshine, opening yourself to the joy and all the beautiful gazes you're going to get from all these humans admiring you? We don't say that to the flower. So why is it that we are so harsh on our judgments and criticisms to all the human families that are struggling and saying, you need to do this, you need to do that? Each signature, each essence came to experience what they need to experience and expand in their time. And we come right back. We know we're talking a lot, but we come right back to the holding about when is change going to happen? When is change going to happen for humanity? They can feel the tipping point. And yet, in each human's individual life, each will come to their tipping point in their own time. And when they reach the tipping point, this is not a time for sadness. This is not a time for celebration. This just is a time for change, for a new story, for a new chapter, for more expansion. What is right for one soul's expansion and journey is not right for another. And we would like to say that no one soul is responsible for another soul. For all came down to experience their own growth. This soul, that soul, this soul, that soul, groups of souls are just here to play together, dance together, interact together, just like a wave in the sea.
Mm.
The waves are different,
Mm.
but all the waves together make the sea. But they are not the sea, they are still the individual wave. But you can't control another wave. And you can't say, no, you can only come in now. Wait, it's my turn to come in and crash onto the beach. Each one comes in when they're ready. One is not bigger, smaller, greater than the next, because that little wave that came in now, when it goes back into the sea and it builds up and it builds up, the next time it comes in, it's huge and crashing. So we may feel as humans that we are sometimes tiny and insignificant, but you don't realize that is just a tiny little part that you're playing in that moment, because you are part of the vastness of all that is, like the sea. And you can come back in huge and fabulous if that's what you want. Or you can come in tiny and play small. It makes no difference. It's just an experience, because you are part of the sea. You are part of all that is. We would like to say to everyone, what is it that you choose?
Mm. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm going to, just to prepare, Jill, just push pause, because there were just a few questions that we'd like to ask SEKHMET privately. Is there any more final words, SEKHMET, for today, please, before we bring Jilly back?
We would like to speak about unity and what it means to be united. Are you united with all the parts of yourself? All your thoughts? Do you have the same thoughts running through your head, playing over and over? Old stories, old times, old pressures, old loves, old sadness. We say the longer you hold on to this, the longer you hold yourself back and humanity as a whole. The faster you release this and all these things, the quicker the pot can boil over and the faster you can get onto your next leg of your journey. It is time for new journeys, and it is time for new stories. For this old story has run its course. And if you keep on pressing pause instead of pressing play, how are you going to know what the rest of the story is going to look at and look like? This is a very, very exciting time in humanity, for humanity. This is something that you chose. Now embrace it. Pull up your socks. Love those around you. Release those that you no longer love. And find the joy. Find the joy. Remember, joy equals just own yourself. Love everybody, but just own yourself. And we thank you from the collective, this one, and you, Michelle, for taking the time out for these conversations, for we feel these conversations are important for the time ahead, and therefore we thank you.
And we thank you for all that you're bringing, for not only myself and Jill, but for humanity, and for the reminders of who we are. Thank you so much. Till next time. We look forward to our next connection. With that, Jilly, take a few big stretches, bring yourself back, back, back. Open your eyes, feeling fantastic. as you would say. Fabulous.
Yes, I've just opened my eyes and Earth looks spectacular. Oh,
Oh,
it
that's
looks
funny.
so green and so the sky so blue and
That's amazing.
wow. How was
Mm.
that?
Really, really awesome. Yeah, great reminders. Um, just great reminders. And I think just a real sense of it feels like there's a few coping mechanisms that she's gifted us in that, and that it's with what's coming. And I think so many people are in fear of what's about to unfold, like they didn't give complete, but I think there's so much of what we already know. But at the same time, remembering who we are, community, support, love, kindness, compassion, that's the only thing that's going to exist.
Yeah. And then we just got to give that out. Just we got to give that to ourselves.
Mm. Yeah,
That's kind of
that's the
feeling
learning.
that's the
Yeah,
feeling I'm getting is like
yeah,
it's time, it's time to have a loving relationship with ourselves.
yeah,
Like, what do we want?
absolutely. That's what I was saying to a friend earlier on. You know, love is going into the ocean. I was watching one of my sunflowers that I planted earlier on, and I thought, wow, how spectacular is this little sunflower? Look at all the little, I mean, it's just starting to come out, but look at all the patterns.
Yo, look at that design.
I know, right?
Wow.
So how clever is this little sunflower? You know,
Yeah.
it's still quite small, but it comes from a seed, and they're just great reminders for me to just go out and just be, you know, and just look. And then I see different things every day, and they just need a bit of water, which is the reminder of water and the connection of coming together and sharing energy out to the parts of the world that are perhaps needing it right now. You know, I know you and I, before we came on here, like I could just feel our lungs, like my lungs and yours, and we're both coughing. And then you went to the children, you know, that don't have water.
Oh, you should have seen them all little lined up. Little kids, like 4 and 5 years old with these huge big containers,
Mm.
just waiting for their water. Don't know how the hell they're going to carry them, that heavy load. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the part
But,
that's just,
but
whew.
we have to have compassion for them, but we've also got to remind ourselves and remember they chose to play that part for humanity. That's why we need to be there for them. So that they're playing that part, but it's a yucky part, it's a painful part. That's why we can't let them struggle too long on their own because they're doing it for us. They're doing it for everybody. So
Mm,
now, how can we help them in return and
mm,
say, okay, you've played your part. It's so kind of you to do that and generous and amazing. But what can we do to help you so that this
mm.
part doesn't have to go on and on?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Incredible, Julie.
Oh, thanks, Mish.
Thank you, guys. Thank you to everybody being here. And we're looking forward to, we've got 2 more chapters to go. And I got some information in the background because we always, you and I go in, and then I'm like, oh, and then afterwards we're like, shit, we should have asked this, so we should have asked that, you know. And so I did. I've asked a few questions, which I think will make you feel very happy. But thank you
Yeah.
for sharing the clarity of everything once again. Like it's always such an honor,
You
really.
should have seen her. Hey, she was so huge. I mean,
Mm.
I was traveling to this like planet and I could see the planet's light in the corner, like a round ball of light. And then just to the side, she just took up the whole sky. It was just like,
Mm.
and then seeing the pyramid with this, there was like a man's face and he was just, I remember that, hey, sliding down the pyramid. It's like, woof, you know? Yeah.
Exciting. So excited to go back to
Yes, I know.
home, as they say it. So
I,
exciting.
I actually can't wait to go back to SEKHMET's temple.
Yeah,
I
me
mean, it
too.
was so different to all the others. It was so pitch dark, and with that guard at the door with the
Yeah,
big turban and the caftan,
yeah,
and
yeah.
just opening the door and closing it behind you, which we didn't do in any of the other temples. They were
No,
completely different.
no, it's just
And
so
then suddenly
spectacular.
seeing her there, and when she started glowing and talking to me, I really thought, you're ready to be committed. But fascinating,
Mhm.
fascinating.
Pretty incredible. So watch this space. We're going to launch, virtually launch, literally launch. It's just been
Eventually.
backwards and forwards. Eventually, no, but
Yeah,
yes,
but it's got to be right. It's got to be,
100%.
got to be
We've gone backwards and forwards and forwards and backwards, and we now are, I just feel it's like it's together. So
ready.
thank you, Julie. Thank you to everybody. Love you guys. And as we were reminded today, just stay in our hearts and keep shining love. So thank you. Thanks, Julie. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Bushy. Bye,
Bye.
guys. Bye.